So, one last warning for this introduction, because you know that feeling when something's off, but you can't quite put your finger on it. You push through thinking that maybe you just need more discipline, more drive, but really something deeper is out of sync. Welcome to the Daily Reframe, where we slow down and get honest about what's actually stuck, not just what's loud, urgent, or demanding our attention. I'm Jordan. Each day this week, you'll watch a real clarity session unfold in real time. No prep, no script, just a conversation that starts with what's real and often lands on something we didn't know was there. It's not a coaching call, it's not a strategy session, it's calibration for when you know something's off but haven't had the space to say it out loud. All right, let's get into it. Welcome, Celeste.
Hello. Oh, wow. I'm like, I had a really early morning. Hello. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. I was like, wow, I hadn't looked at myself on camera. Here we are.
Here
Yay.
we are. Yeah, so for our last daily reframe, I'm excited to see where this goes because it's clearly not the end of what we're
Yeah.
doing. It's just the
No.
end of this first chapter, almost
Yes.
introduction. Yeah. So for
Yeah.
today, what's on your mind?
Well, no, I was just thinking because I could see this becoming something we do often, not daily.
No.
Let's just be honest, not daily, but the conversation's great. It's organic, it flows, and it's enjoyable. And so, yes, I could totally see this becoming something that we do together. So yeah.
Yeah, we'll see. For today's daily reframe, what's on your mind and to-do list?
Oh, well, I have a lot to do, honestly. We've talked about Dallas that, and I will be driving there on Sunday. We've got Sarah's coming in today to help film and shoot some behind the scenes footage, but also like, oh gosh, brand photos and things like that for
Mhm.
me, because I also have a TV episode coming out this year. And so I need some stuff for that. So we have that. She's going to be here for 3 days, and there's some things she wants to get done, and so I have that. But then I also have so for next week, I'm competing with a 3-minute speech. And this week, I have a speech due for another competition that's 5 minutes. And God likes to throw me into the deep end, not in a shameful way. And it's not
Mhm.
like, overboard, go swimming. No, it's like walk on water with me kind of thing.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, yeah, because I can't do it without him. Did I ever tell you that I actually failed ninth grade speech because I
No.
just was so afraid of my own voice and being heard and seen, and all eyes were on me, and perfectionism, all that stuff. So, it's ironic, but not right that would be where
Yep.
I was. I mean, obviously, that would be where I was hit the most. But I have a 5-minute speech that I don't even do. I stick with my 3-minute and add two, so there's that.
Yeah. Um, well, knowing a little bit about the competitions, both competitions that you're entering, and having seen your 3 minute, and knowing the judging criteria for this first one, I would strongly encourage you to take that 3 minute that you have and craft it for the 5 minute
Mhm.
competition. And like I've mentioned to you before, shorter is always better. Don't cram into that 5 minute where you've got it perfectly timed for exactly 5 minutes. 4.5 is good.
Yeah,
You don't
yeah.
feel rushed. If you do end up stumbling, you've got a whole 30 seconds to
Right.
adjust and expand and start over, backtrack, start speaking again. And quite frankly, in those competitions, when you do something like that and you come back, I have watched the judges just like light up because they're not just looking for the precision, they're
Mhm.
looking for the stage presence.
Right.
And sometimes things completely throw you off. on stage. Even the best speakers who have their speech completely memorized can, if you have your speech completely memorized and your microphone goes out and you don't realize it for 3 sentences, and then you're being waved down and it's like, back up, back up. You have to be able to pick up where you actually left off.
Right.
Someone has to be able to say, you were talking about this, and you need to be able to regroup. And so oftentimes the judges are watching for something like that. If you're thrown off, can you regain your footing? Can you step back up? I know I have when I have judged for speaking in the past. So that's something to keep in mind is,
Thank you. Yes.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, so that's what I need to do, and it's in my mind, it flowed. That 3-minute talk came flowing out, but it actually didn't. And so I think that that's what my block has been too for that 5 minute is, well, that one flowed. How am I going to get this 5 minute? But that 3 minute was a hard fought one. And people, I
Mm-hmm.
don't know if people like 3 minutes is that is a hard speech to write. Um, I've I feel like God actually gave me some really great gifts in that 3-minute speech because of the flow of it in my brain and how to, get it from memorization out my mouth kind of thing. He gave me some really great pointers. So it turned into this like spoken word type of
Yeah.
thing. And I've never even I don't write poetry. I don't compete in these competitions, but it felt like a gift. And so that 5-minute one it has been feeling, but I can see it now that was just a lie I was believing, but it felt like the flow's going to get lost. And yeah.
Yeah. I know that feeling where you have something and it feels so complete.
Hmm.
And so you're holding it right here and you don't want to let it grow. Even thinking about the Studio Ghibli movies, we love those. And one of our kids' favorites is called Ponyo. And it's about this little fish
Uh-huh.
um, that turns into a human. Magical fairylands, the Studio Ghibli stuff has some of that. But it's this fish and she wants to be a human. And um, her magical wizard father, at one point when she starts transforming into a human, and he grabs her and with his magic he's turning her back and going, no, don't change. And it's just such a poignant moment for a parent
Yeah.
because it's like, no, you're my little girl, don't
Yeah.
change, don't
Don't
grow,
change.
don't
Don't
grow
grow up.
up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that was the image that I got in my mind when you're just like, no, the 3 minutes is,
It's
it's there,
it's
it's complete, it's
it
what
feels
it's supposed
perfect,
to be.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, like it does, but I can see I can see taking this and transforming it into a 5 minute.
Mhm.
I think too, my biggest thing is, and we were talking about this before, just mentioned it, is this idea of, see, I started healing out loud. I started going live and stuff like that, talking about my faith, my relationship with God, like the visions he's given me and those things. And it's starting to, it's not that I have to leave him to speak on business, but I'm having a hard time too with the call to action, or even
Mhm.
bringing it into why I do what I do or what I do or things like that, because it feels like there's this fragment, and I know that that's not God's heart. And so what what is that block? What is the reframe there? Like,
Mhm.
what is it that I'm having a hard time understanding that I can actually grow my business, speak on God, like, or speak about God, and my faith, and still invite people into my business space. And so,
Yeah.
I mean, it's the perfect place. This is how people grow their businesses. Some of them
Mhm.
do, right? And I'm just like, what is it that it's like my brain can't comprehend how to turn it into an ecosystem that's
Yeah.
aligned with my calling, my purpose, but also
Mhm.
the business that he's given me. And so, yeah.
I resonate with that so much, and I know that you and I have talked about it from the perspective of, like, bringing Holy Spirit stories, bringing God stories and mentions
Yes,
of God into our business realm and business talk, and how will people respond. And the realization that I came to, that I think we share because we've talked about this before, is if other business owners can be so open about manifestation and, well, the
right,
universe said this and all of this language, and we can filter it and still gain business knowledge from them, and, not necessarily be like their best buddies and in all of their programs and all,
right.
you know there's a
But
time
there's
for all of that.
wisdom.
but
Yeah,
but if they can be so bold in just saying what they see, why not us, when we know the deeper truths and um the God
yeah,
of the universe, you
right,
know? And so that was a reframe for me a while back, was, I don't just have to speak to the believers when I'm talking about God. Why can't I just naturally let it flow, just like these other people are naturally letting all of these other things flow that I don't agree with and do think are wrong,
yeah,
and so on and so forth. So that was an initial reframe. But even just last night, I was working on a similar project and trying to go the other way, where I'm going to be in front of a Christian audience and I'm sharing a faith filled story. How do I bring in business? Because we've had this mindset of separation of church and state, and you can't serve God and money. And so, therefore, we can't talk about money at all in a Christian church setting. And
yeah,
all of these things wrapped up, and constraining my voice. Because something that I'm realizing working on this particular project is it would be disingenuous and hiding, like keeping something valuable from this audience, if I just went, I'm just not going to mention my business. I'll just share like the stories around it and be a little inspirational, but then I don't give them anything to actually do with it. And I have tools available, free,
right.
cheap, paid, high ticket, like all across the board. If you want it done for you, if you want to DIY, I can help you.
Hmm.
And if you want to do it yourself, if you want to go somewhere else, it's totally fine. And but it would be wrong of me to not have a firm CTA associated with my business, because my business is what funds being able to help people.
Right, right. And I think that probably right there is, because everything fell apart, right? Like, I had CTAs, and then
Mhm.
just recently, I'm in that pruning back, um, season a again, but really, again, no, this one feels very intentional, and very God-led. And so what is the call to action? And I do believe that I'm, like, right on the cusp of actually having something that they can be sent to, like, right on the cusp, like, today, tomorrow kinda cusp, um, putting that together. But yeah, so that's probably it right there, because I feel it right there, is this I had a marketing agency. Let me help you put together your stuff, right? I had an accelerator. Let me help you with your social media, and infusing AI in a way that keeps the human intact, right? Let me help you with all of that stuff. And I know that we have this pure mastermind inside the Soul Sister Project, but the offer of that feels not fragmented, but incomplete just yet. There's
Mhm.
there is there's a foundation, but it feels incomplete because of the word that he gave me. And we talked about that too, is like, if you build it, they will come. And I'm like, well, build what? And so all it's like, just keep taking the steps, Celeste. And so I really do believe that I will. It's coming, and it's right there. But what is the call to action? Because I need to get this filmed, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
And so it's
Yeah.
like, okay, a lead magnet maybe, right? And we had talked about, hear my soul sister story, but I'm actually kind of leaning into tell your soul sister story to me,
Mhm.
um, and doing something like what we've done here. I know the reframe's different because our gifting is different,
Mhm.
but something similar where I actively listen, and then, and it could be that breakthrough, because that's the gift I have, is like, and you give clarity too in the reframes. I give clarity through,
Mhm.
I really have a business, and it's not that you don't either. Like, our gifting overlaps really, well, actually. It's very
Yeah, we were talking
beautiful.
about that yesterday
Yeah.
privately about where it
Yeah.
overlaps but where it's almost not even an overlap though, like, it's right next to
Yeah.
each other. But they're
Yes.
so close
They
that at a glance, you're like, "Oh, that's the same category," but when you actually look at it,
but
it's
yeah,
different.
it is different, and so I could see doing something similar to this with people that have told me their story and would be willing
Mhm.
to come, let me, interview them or ask them questions. It's not really even an interview, but,
Mhm.
and so, that right there feels open hands for me, more than like, come hear my story,
Mhm.
they'll get that as they continue to be in my presence, or like, if they are meant there,
Mhm.
they'll start hearing my story more and more, because I that's what I lead with. I talk in stories. I love that too. Somebody had actually reframed that to me not too long ago, and they're like, oh, you talk in parables. And I'm like, oh, well, yeah, that makes sense. Okay, yeah. So,
Yeah.
um, but that's kind of what I'm leaning to, is like, come tell me your story, because I would
Mhm.
love to hear your story.
I love
So
that.
yeah, yeah,
That's beautiful. While you were talking about it all, and I know what the Soul Sister Project is, way over here on this side, and
yeah,
and you're talking to new people all the way over here. And so the image that I saw is almost like in a video game or something where there's this big gap and there's no bridge, but there's the first pillar step. I guess it would be on this side, the first pillar step. And sometimes the next one doesn't come up until you jump on that first one. And so
mhm,
that's what I saw happening. And so the question is, what is that first pillar step? Is it simply to reach out to you? Do you want them to contact you? We're used to the world of lead magnets where somebody goes, fills out a form, gives you their contact information. They
yeah,
receive something from you, but it's automated. And it's, the download. It's not hearing from you, right? They're transactionally buying something from you with their email address. Let's call it what it
yeah,
is.
yeah,
Um, but I've seen a shift, especially among, I don't even know how to define them, but um, among people who are watching and really taking the pulse and not just strategy, data,
Yeah.
people who are actually observing what's going on in the world and what people are craving, and giving that phone number, saying DM me. These are the calls to action that are really resonating and building relationships. Um, and so that's kind of what I saw as perhaps that first pillar that you pop up at the end of your talk or in the middle of your talk, and you just invite them to connect with you and give them a
Yeah.
clear way to do so, whether it's a phone number, a QR code where they can text you, a QR code that takes them to your Facebook Messenger, your Instagram inbox, or what have you. We make it simple and straightforward. I the 5 minute doesn't allow any kind of slides or anything like that, but I'm speaking in general. Like if you're speaking from the stage, there's different options,
Yeah. Yeah. And so, yeah, so that's kind of what it's been, probably the block the most, but it there was it happened last night where it was like, I wanna hear their story.
Mm.
I wanna hear their story. And I do connect really well, one-on-one like this, and it's like, if we're talking about business, it's the ones I've connected one-on-one with the most
Mm-hmm.
that keep coming back, and I think that that's for everybody, especially in the business of humans, right? I mean, we're all in it, but I don't have a service really right now as far as like I'm not doing anything for you, but I can definitely help you accelerate by the knowledge that I have, and then the mentors that we have available too, right? But what are the steps to getting into that? Because we've talked about that too. See that level of access to the wisdom, the knowledge, the running, because that's
Mm-hmm.
we're running together. There's a price on that not everyone's willing to pay, and not necessarily even monetary right now. It's
Exactly.
like, yeah, there takes sacrifice and perseverance and resilience and stuff like that. And not everybody's there. But then it's not that we want to lose them, the ones that aren't ready for that. And so what are the steps? But I do believe it starts with connection.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And yeah,
So
so
maybe it's a book a call. Maybe it's a send me a voice message on Messenger.
yeah.
Whatever it is,
Yeah,
that
and I'm not
personal
sure
touch.
exactly what that is, but yes, yeah. And
Mhm.
yeah, I've even thought about just doing a form on my website where
Mhm.
you can just have, three questions, right? Of like personal questions. And so that, yeah, we could reach out, and at least I have an idea of what your
Yes,
story is,
who you
not
are,
going into your
what
mind.
you're
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So
yeah. I've I've had a form. I'm trying to remember. I think it was when I was writing case studies um,
mhm.
for people. That was my primary offer 8 years ago, and the way that I would start prompting them to share the story was that simple 3 question, beginning, middle, and end sort of framework, with the beginning corresponding to where were you before? What happened before? So for a case study, I was asking, where was your client before they came to you? And so why were they looking for you? And so for a soul sister story, it's um, what was your before time, however you end up phrasing that, um, before you had a breakthrough, what were you feeling? And then asking that question of the middle of that story, what made you actually crave that breakthrough, and
Mm,
what happened to make that breakthrough happen? And then that third question of where are you at now? How far have you come? What has
mhm.
happened as a result of that breakthrough. So that's kind of that before, during, and after.
Yeah,
If
I
you
like
if you
that.
pick that moment, and that can help you get um, a clear picture of the story arc. Because
Yeah.
sometimes when you leave it too open ended, somebody will just ramble, and you're like,
Yeah,
I'm not even sure what you're talking about.
right. Exactly. And yeah, I've gotten, especially since, me and you and we've worked together in helping draw story out of people.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, what would Jordan say? Or how would Jordan put this? I've got that in my mind when I start reading questions or even copy or something like that. I've gotten really good too. I use a lot of AI, but like,
Mm-hmm.
put this in fifth grade, like reading level
Yes.
language.
Love that prompt.
Simplify this. Yes, simplify this and put this in fifth grade reading level language, and that works really well. And with you, so like I don't want those open-ended questions. I don't do well with open-ended questions,
Yeah.
but I do like the before, during, and after type of framework, and it can be worded in a way that can draw some information out. And yeah, so
Mm-hmm.
I agree
And
with
again,
that.
with ChatGPT, I love using ChatGPT, especially trained GPTs, but even just going in cold and putting in those 3 questions roughly, kind of like
Yeah,
I did. Like the questions, the way that I phrase them are kind of terrible. But they're a good start.
it's a
And
it's a
so,
good start. Yes.
yeah. And ChatGPT can really help brainstorm fast. And so putting those 3 questions in and saying, I want to draw out someone's story, both, before, during, and after the breakthrough or whatever keyword you choose. Give me 5 different suggested sets of 3 questions each that will help draw out the complete story. And then that can help you see the different angles. And it's not even that will then provide the answer and you're like, oh, I'll pick this one. That's the best one. And we're running with it. Sometimes that will spark your clarity.
Mhm.
Sometimes arguing back to ChatGPT why the answer it produced is wrong helps me get my clarity,
Me
and then I
too.
just go
Yes.
write it. Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
it's like a
I
sounding
do
board.
argue a lot, with ChatGPT, and those are some of my biggest breakthroughs is when I'm just like, "No," and blah, 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 and I'm like, "Oh, that just came out of my mouth. Okay, there it is.
There it is.
That was what I needed." Yeah, yeah. So, um 3 minutes to 5 minutes, 4.5. We're gonna do 4:30.
4.5. Mhm.
And
Mhm.
I really that resonates more with me on a and I don't know if I can with the 5 minute, but I do need it with the 3 minute, right? Is a call to action that feels strong because I trip over it. And I'm like, okay, well then
Mhm.
that means it's not flowing yet. And so I like I want to draw their story out. So
Mhm.
and keep
Well, a
them
quick
wanting
reframe.
more, right?
Just a quick bonus reframe for that moment too. Again, just last night I was going through this myself with writing. Um, and yes, when you're tripping over it, there's something off.
Right.
And so the question before trying to adjust what's off is to sit a second and ask, is it something that's off in the script or the CTA? Or is it something that's off here? And
Mhm.
this is something that I need to confidently present, but it's a little uncomfortable for some reason. And so I need to work through it and not necessarily change what's here.
Yeah.
And usually it's a little of both,
Mhm.
but
That's
asking
what
that
happens.
question,
Yeah.
yep, asking that question can help clarify where you need to be actually working, actually adjusting, and bringing it together. Because yeah, I was struggling over writing a CTA last night and it just feeling disjointed. Like I
Yeah.
had all this flow, story, 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 story.
Boom.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Now what do we do with that?
Yeah.
And so asking, okay, which part of it's me, which part of it's the CTA, and bouncing back and forth between those 2 questions until it was settled.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I feel clear. So reframed, I do feel clear on what, because it was both. It was a little bit of both, and it just needed a small. It, I guess it like needed to be turned like that, because I was
Mm-hmm.
like, mirror. No, I really do. I really do want to hear other people's stories, that if they resonated with this, right? I want to
Mm-hmm.
hear your story.
That's
Yeah.
beautiful. Well, what
Yeah.
a beautiful reframe to end on, not just today, but to end this week on.
Yeah.
Um, for those listening, I think I've got a couple of spots left today. Same day, you can follow that link and grab a reframe. But then I'm done because I've got a full schedule the coming week, doing all
Me
kinds of things. Um, keep an eye on my Instagram stories, Facebook stories, if I have the space to post on them, because it's gonna be a fun week of adventures. So
Yes, mine too. Mine too. I know, and we're headed in opposite
opposite directions.
directions, and
Yep.
it's going to be a lot of fun. It is.
It
Yeah.
is. Well, thank you so much for being a part of
Thank
this.
you.
I'm like almost hesitant to close it off because I know it's the end, but it's also just the beginning.
It is.
Um, so stay tuned. See what Celeste keeps doing, see what I keep doing, and see what we keep doing together. Because at this point, we can't get away from each other. So,
No, and there's no telling what God's going to do, because it's been he's surprised me a lot. I hope he has you too, Jordan,
mhm.
and yeah, so there's no telling, but I am super excited to see what unfolds for you, for me, and for us. And so yeah, so keep a watch.
Yep.
Yeah.
Likewise. Okay. Bye.